we're looking ahead to a big weekend of Championship action. But ladies and gents, because we are now halfway through the Championship season, over halfway, actually, Justin. That means we're in the business end of the season, doesn't it? This is where things get bloody interesting. And it might not be the official business end of the season as far as we're concerned, but business is certainly picking up. But between now and May, it's going to be very, very exciting. So if you want to chat about it with other fans of your club and other clubs across the Championship, join the second tier Patreon for just over £3, for just over £3.50 a month. For just £3.50 a month, you'll get access to every single show ad-free, an extended edition of every single weekend show, and access to the second tier Discord. Go to patreon.com/second tier right now to get involved. You will not regret it, because I'll tell you what, Justin, the Discord, I'm loving the Discord right now, baby. It's great stuff, and we get great content like Joe, who told us about how his son went for chips while he was, Josh Windass was scoring that worldie.
Yeah, and all for just £3.50 as well, which is less than the flat white I paid for the other day. Flat white being coffee, I will add. So the value you get is incredible, and like you said, the content you get is even better. We talk about Football Manager. There can be a lot of bitching about your own clubs in there as well, which is it's a good place to vent.
It's good stuff.
It is.
That's what we want to see. We want to see fans complaining about their own clubs and finding out why they're so annoyed. It's good stuff like that, Justin, which keeps me going. Get involved if you haven't already. It's a great place to be. Right, let's have a look ahead to lay weekends then. And our game of lay weekend is the East Lancashire derby between Blackburn and Burnley. Burnley are the 5-4 favourites to win this one with SBK. A Blackburn win is 12-5. The draw is 11-5. But what derby is it, Justin?
It's the Shane Duffy derby.
It's the East Lancashire derby, you idiot. I just told you what it was. But what a how's your mother this one is. Of course, two big rivals, both with an eye towards promotion this season. But here's an extra little bit of spice for you, Justin. What happened the last time Burnley visited Ewood Park?
There was a draw. No, there wasn't. Ewood Park.
Yeah, that was at Turf Moor.
That was at Turf Moor. Yeah, Ewood Park. There was a little bit of a title win, wasn't there?
Yes, Burnley. They won the Championship last time they visited Ewood Park. They were celebrating winning the title on the turf of their big rivals. It's sacrilege, Justin. Complete and utter sacrilege. And infamously, Josh Brownhill had an inflatable trophy which he repeatedly lifted above his head in front of the Blackburn fans, nearly inciting a riot, I may add. So Blackburn will want to get payback here, won't they? Particularly because, Justin, they haven't beaten their big rivals in such a long time. 2010 was the last time Blackburn beat Burnley. That day, David Dunn scored the winner. Mortingamps Pedersen was playing, as was Alhaj Diouf, incredibly. They also had Michel Salgado, Stephen Nzonzi, some great names in there. But the point is that I'm making here, Justin, it's been a long time. And we've had 10 meetings since where Blackburn have failed to win against Burnley, and they'll be desperate for a victory right here, won't they?
Oh yeah, I mean, just going on the time it's been since Blackburn last beat Burnley, we both were mere teenagers at this point. Youthful figures. We had full hairlines and no facial hair. It was an incredible time.
Yeah. It means nothing to anyone listening, but it means a lot to us as to how long ago it was.
Exactly. It just all it does is just make you hark back to the better times, and I imagine there were better times for Blackburn because they were a Premier League side. They obviously beat Burnley, but going into this game now, you can imagine what it means to the fans to get one over their supporters. A question for the fans actually is: would they sacrifice a playoff finish to get 3 points over Burnley?
Ooh, that's a good question. Actually,
yeah,
that's a really good question. I'd love to know what fans are thinking about that, because I reckon they might say get a win over Burnley,
I think it will be a split decision with a lot of fans, because playoffs doesn't necessarily guarantee promotion, but in beating Burnley, there's a potential to completely derail their season. It could knock confidence. It could do a lot of damage to their promotion campaign. But more importantly, is bragging rights, because it's been such a long time. The generation of fans that haven't seen Blackburn beat Burnley, which is incredible.
Yeah, it's a really interesting question, actually, that, Justin. A very good question from you. I think I probably would go a win against Burnley if I was a Blackburn fan, because I'd be thinking that's going to stick in the memory for a long time, isn't it? Whereas playoff place, great. The chances of Blackburn actually getting promoted and getting a playoff place, I would say, is still quite slim. So with that being said, Burnley win, that will stay in your mind for a long, long time, won't it? So yeah, I think I'd be interested to see what an actual Blackburn fan would say, but that's certainly how I'll be swinging anyway. Anyway, in previous years, when these two have met, it's got to be said they've been in very different positions, haven't they, Justin? Burnley usually fighting for the automatics, even going back, 10 years now. They've always been fighting for the promotion places when they have been in the Championship, whereas Blackburn usually nearer to the relegation zone, haven't they? But this season, they are both eyeing up promotion, and they'll be thinking this is a great opportunity, will Blackburn, on home turf as well, to get a huge win over their big rivals down the M65. And look, they got a point at Turf Moor back in August. So why couldn't they go one better here and maybe get a playoff place at the end of the season as well, Justin?
That would be beautiful. For a Blackburn fan, they would certainly love that. I mean, it's worth pointing out that this is a rivalry that surprises me quite significantly. I mean, when we went up to Ewood Park in August, when we went to watch them beat Oxford, the Burnley game was the week after. So there's a lot of buzz in the air surrounding this fixture. And the amount that the set of fans genuinely hate each other, it just took me aback a little bit, because I think a lot of Derby Forest fans, in my experience, over local derby rivalry, if you like, they hate each other, but there's a little bit of a camaraderie sometimes with them. But Burnley, Blackburn, genuinely is a hatred there, which is incredible. And like you were saying, why couldn't they go one better? And it would be a perfect end to the season if they get 3 points two against Burnley and then finishing in the top six. But why couldn't they go one better than the draw in August? Burnley's defence is probably one of those reasons why they might not be able to go one better, because it is so good, and Blackburn are going to have to play a perfect game to break those lines.
Yeah, well, I think we've said this before, but I think this is always quite an underrated derby, because it doesn't really get the recognition it deserves, because it is two towns, fairly small towns in England, really, separated by just one road, and it's like two tribes really going at each other, just giving each other jibes from across the way. And so when they actually come together and clash, it's always a very, very juicy. And look, we've spoken about Burnley a fair few times in these preview shows, Justin. We've spoken about how they're great at punishing teams who are willing to come at them, who dare to come at them. And what makes this so interesting is I don't think Blackburn will be doing that. I think John Eustace will be aware that Burnley struggle to break down teams who sit off them and stay compact, not parking the bus, but being disciplined and keeping organised. And so even though Blackburn are the home side, I think they'll be willing to let Burnley have the ball and hit them quick, because we've seen them do that on so many occasions this season. And also, you've got to add in the fact that Burnley can't afford to be settling for draws in games at this stage. Otherwise, other teams could take advantage of them dropping points. So it's really fascinating to see how Scott Parker will be approaching this one.
Well, yeah, I think the timing of the fixture is probably a bit of an awkward one, especially when you're coming into the game off the back of two draws that Burnley have had over the festive period. They really needed to come in with at least a win, just to give them a bit of confidence and a bit of a cushion, because I think with Burnley, they're one of those teams where, Scott Parker's called it out already. I know they're away from home, but it feels like anxiety just set in a little bit with supporters, a little bit with the team as well. There's maybe a lack of assertiveness in their own game when they're going forwards, when they're playing forwards, and even more so when they're trying to break down a team that are sitting very, very deep. And I just don't think Scott Parker's teams are capable of being convincing against sides who will sit deep. And I think, as you mentioned, John Eustace will be well aware of that. He's a very intelligent manager, and he has shown on many occasions so far this season. 4 points against Leeds in 2 games this season is a key example of that. He will adapt his team to the opposition strengths and weaknesses, and he's going to do that against Burnley. And obviously, one of those weaknesses of Burnley is breaking down the team. So being disciplined is going to be the key driver here for John Eustace's side.
Yeah, it's going to be a feisty one, but I also think it's going to be cagier than a zoo, this one. But that also makes it a really, really intriguing clash, which I'm incredibly looking forward to tomorrow lunchtime, because it's going to be really, really fascinating to see how it goes. Right, it's now time for our second tier bet builder with SBK. And first off, we want to remind everyone about SBK's Fresh Legs promotion. That's got nothing to do with Justin Peach shaving his legs. Fresh Legs means that when your player gets subbed, the bet carries over to the player coming on. So whether you need a shot on target, a yellow card, or a goal, Fresh Legs means you're still in the game even when your player gets substituted off. SBK, they're the only bookmaker offering this on every championship game this season, meaning there really is no better place to bet on the second tier. So why not sign up for SBK and join the thousands of people already taking advantage of Fresh Legs every weekend, plus plenty of other bloody good offers as well. You'll be kicking yourself if you don't. And because SBK are so bloody good at what they do, they're also offering a 25% boost on any bet builder for Blackburn versus Burnley, because it is such a bloody big game. So every Friday we make our own bet builder with 4 selections, all relating to our game of the weekend. So that's 2 for Justin and 2 for me. Justin, what is your first selection?
My first selection is Blackburn to have under 11.5 shots. It's a derby, cliche alert, bing bang. I'm expecting a tight game. I don't know why I made the sound effect. I'm expecting
I like the sound effect. The sound effect is good. More of that, please.
It's a cliche sound effect.
More bing bangs.
Bing bangs. I'm expecting a tight game. It makes no sense whatsoever why I made that. I'm expecting a tight game generally, given both managers will probably opt for a conservative approach to the game management in this one. Neither will want to lose. There's a lot on the line with it. But the stats also support that. Blackburn have had over 11.5 shots in just 7 of their games this season. So they're not prolific shot takers generally. So again, you're going into a derby. Blackburn, it's going to be a game of low chances. Blackburn going to be conservative in their approach. Under 11.5 shots is not a bad shout here.
Yeah, and also Burnley have only conceded over 11.5 shots in 4 of their last 19 games. And based off what we've been saying, Justin, I'd be surprised if Blackburn were going gung-ho in this one. I don't think they'll be very adventurous at all. So that's why I think under 11.5 shots is definitely worth backing here. My first selection for the bet builder is under 5.5 cards. It's Ryan's card pick of the week. And what do I always say, Justin, when it comes to the number of cards in derby games?
They underperform.
Yeah, I guess. I always believe referees are more stingy with their cards when it comes to derby games, because they want to try and keep a lid on the game. So they're more willing to let things go. They're not always the card fest that you would stereotypically expect with a derby game. And on plenty of occasions, I've been proven right with that this season. One occasion where I've ironically been proven wrong is the reverse fixture of this game, which was a very bad-tempered affair and saw 12 cards given out. But I don't think that'll be the case here. I think it will be fiery, plenty of meaty challenges flying about. But as I say, I think the referee will be willing to let things go. Andrew Kitchen is the referee for this one. He's given out under 5.5 cards in all but one of his last 11 championship matches. And so that's why I'm going with this here. Justin?
Yeah, I'm going to avoid the Kitchen puns as I did last time this referee came up.
Please do.
But, you know, you are probably right. I do think derby games do tend to, they underperform. Cards underperform. As you say, referees want to let things go a little bit and buy into the atmosphere, if you like, and the type of the game it's going to be. So, yeah, completely agree on this one.
Yeah, referees have to expect that there'll be a bit more bite in a game, in a derby game than usual. So that's why they've got to be generous. Not so generous with the cards, I should say. Otherwise, they'll be handing out a fair bloody few. Justin, let's go to your next selection.
I've gone with under 2.5 goals for the next selection. Blackburn games have yielded over 2.5 goals on just 8 occasions. Burnley just 5 occasions. And more importantly, Burnley are likely to control this game. Doesn't matter if it's home or away, Burnley will want to control the game, and Blackburn will be happy to let them control the game. So as I say, not expecting many goals in this one.
No, I think that's fair. As you mentioned, the numbers there, Justin, Burnley and Blackburn, 2 teams who have seen the fewest number of goals in the Championship this season in their respective games. So it'd be a surprise if this one were to be a goal fest, put it that way. And the final selection for our bet builder, Blackburn double chance, which a reminder as always is basically us just saying Blackburn not to lose. Yeah, looking at the odds, I'm surprised to see Burnley as short as they are. Yes, they're the stronger team out of the two, but Blackburn have shown on plenty of occasions this season that they're no mugs. They are a brilliantly well-drilled side who are so tactically switched on under John Eustace, who just proves time and time again how good a manager he is. And I'd back him to get something here. If Blackburn keep it tight at the back, get men behind the ball, Burnley will struggle to break them down. We've seen that happen time and time again. And there's every chance that Blackburn hold them off here, go up the other end, and then even punish them. Would that be a surprise at all, Justin? I don't think it would, because we've seen that happen to both these two this season. Blackburn keeping it tight and then hitting the other team on the break. Burnley struggling to break a team down and then, being punished for it. So I think Blackburn could do a job on Burnley here, Justin, and get themselves potentially a historic win if things pan out the way we expect this weekend, Justin.
Yeah, that's what Rovers fans will be hoping for. And if you look back at the results so far this season, they've only lost to Sheffield United. They've picked up draws against Sunderland, obviously Burnley, and they've beaten Leeds and drawn against Leeds so far this season. So their performances against the top four at the moment it's been brilliant. They've been really, really good. Obviously, they picked up a win against Middlesbrough as well, when Middlesbrough are in their height of attacking quality. So in the big games, John Eustace has really shown up. And when you consider the fact that Scott Parker's team can sometimes get a bit shy, we have seen it, especially against those low block teams. A Blackburn result is probably a good shout.
Yeah. All they've got to do is just avoid defeat, and I think that'll be a good result for John Eustace's side, although, as we've alluded to plenty in the past 20 minutes or so, they would quite like to get a win, because that would be a massive, massive result for the fans and just Blackburn in general. But look, this is our bet builder for the East Lancashire derby on Saturday lunchtime. Blackburn to have under 11.5 shots, under 5.5 cards, under 2.5 goals, and Blackburn double chance. A £10 stake on that bet builder returns £75 thanks to SBK's 25% boost on bet builders for Blackburn versus Burnley. But remember, if you don't fancy our bet builder with SBK, you can create your own bet builder from a range of markets. T's and C's apply, over 18s only, and please do gamble responsibly. Justin, let's take a quick break. After that, we'll get on to the rest of our predictions for this big weekend across the Championship. Welcome back to the second tier preview show, brought to you by SBK, and it's now prediction time, ladies and gents. It's time for us to have a look ahead to the weekend, and in each preview episode of the second tier, Justin and I will each pick a banker, a team we think is guaranteed to win this coming weekend, as well as an outsider, so someone we think is going to win, but is bigger odds with our friends at SBK than their opponent. We're tracking how we do as the season goes on, you see, and it's 1 point for a correct banker, 2 points for an outsider. Whoever loses has to do a forfeit, which is to be a mascot at an EFL game next season. The current scores look like this. It's 24-20 to Justin Peach. And I tell you what, ladies and gents, just before Christmas, the scores were 23-16. So it's gone from a 7-point gap to a 4-point gap in a couple of weeks, with Justin only getting 2 points over the last 3 preview shows. He, ladies and gentlemen, is in a slump.
I am in a slump. I needed a break. I needed the January transfer window to come along, and here we are. I don't know what it's going to bode for me, but hopefully a few more favourable bankers, because it's been a difficult period, I think, for outsiders and bankers in general. Christmas period's always a bit chaotic as well. I'm just going to blame it on that. A lot of travel. A lot of travel when you don't want it.
Don't bring up the travel again. Come on now. Well, I think there's a sudden surge of people tuning in, hoping that their team hasn't been selected for Justin Peach's banker this weekend because of his recent form. But with that being said, Justin Peach, reveal to the people, what is your banker for this weekend?
I've gone with Stoke to win at home against Plymouth on Saturday lunchtime. Speaking of travel, only joking. Mark Robinson's first home game in charge against a Plymouth team who are also still looking for a new manager after Rooney departed Home Park on New Year's Eve. We can say whatever we need to, or whatever we want to say about Plymouth's away record. It is terrible. There's all the stats in the world that we've said previously. I don't need to go back over them. They're the worst away team in the division. And I don't think that's going to change now Rooney's left, because their away record under Rooney, Ian Foster, and of course Steven Schumacher in the Championship has has been poor. It's been very, very poor. So that for me is enough of a reason to back Stoke for this one. Importantly, though, and I think this is the key factor here, I don't think it's Mark Robins. I think it's the last 2 games under Ryan Shawcross that we really need to put a magnifying glass on. The game plans have changed. There's been bravery, there's been simplicity, and that is a stark contrast from what I perceive to be an overcomplicated system deployed under Narcis Palach. That's the most important factor for me. That's breathed a lot of confidence into the team. And I think Mark Robins is coming in at the perfect time. And obviously you do have to introduce the Robins element into it at some point. So you may as well. New manager bounce, baby.
Yeah, fabled new manager bounce, of course. But it's going to be a really fascinating game to keep an eye on, even if you're a neutral, this game, because it is Mark Robins' first game in charge. Really fascinating to see how he gets on, because obviously he's been in Coventry for so long. How he gets on at another club is going to be intriguing, to say the very least. But Justin, I think we may have to start introducing a rule to these preview shows where there's a ban on picking Plymouth away from home, because they come up in every single show. It's ridiculous.
Because one of us so bad.
Just can't. Well, they are, aren't they? We can't help ourselves from picking Plymouth whenever they're away from home. So, are you willing right now to shake my hand and say, right, that's it, no one's allowed to pick Plymouth away from home for the rest of the season?
Absolutely fucking not. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Ryan's attempt to claw back scores and put the odds in his favour. He's pulling a face here.
How does that make sense?
I've known him for 20 plus years. I know his game. He wants to rig the game in his favour. And I think long-time listeners will be well aware of these tactics.
Hang on, how does that make sense? Because you're winning, you're 4 points ahead at the moment.
Correct.
That would be eliminating an obvious banker each week.
Yeah, and it's an obvious banker that I could choose. I could get my bankers in before you.
Well, I could
for example.
choose it, and you never get them in before me. We'll make that very clear. But surely this makes sense for you.
It doesn't. I'm sitting on this side of the fence for me. I'm going to say no. Plymouth deserve to be in this as much as everybody else.
Okay, fine. I'll just keep picking Plymouth away from home in my bankers each week. Then that's fine with me. Yeah, fine. I'll look forward to seeing you donning those skimpy shorts when you're an EFL mascot next season, mate. Let's go to my banker then for this weekend. I've gone with Sunderland to win at home against Portsmouth on Sunday afternoon. Now, Sunderland coming off the back of a massive win against Sheffield United on New Year's Day, but results like that are completely and utterly pointless in the grand scheme of things if they're not following up by beating teams like Portsmouth at home. If Sunderland want to continue to be a genuine contender for the top 2, they have to be winning here. And you look elsewhere, Burnley are away at big rivals Blackburn, a really tricky game. Sheffield United are away at Watford, a side who have won 9 from 12 at Vicarage Road this season. Leeds away at Hull. I don't think it's perhaps as straightforward as the odds suggest. Sunderland will already know by the time they kick off what the results have been elsewhere. But this weekend should be a great chance for them to make precious ground on at least some of those teams in the top 2 race this season. So they have to be doing the business themselves. And look, they should be fully expecting to do so. They're one of only 2 teams still unbeaten at home in the league this season. And they're facing a Portsmouth side who are very Jekyll and Hyde. At home, they have been unplayable. Recently, away from home, they have been shocking. They've recently been battered away at Derby and Bristol City. It's something they desperately need to improve, but it's hard to see that happening against a very talented Sunderland side. So that's why I'm going with Sunderland as my banker of the weekend, Justin.
Yeah, I mean, considering Portsmouth are so poor away, I mean, I mentioned in yesterday's show just the contrast in home and away performances. They've looked terrible against the likes of Derby and Bristol City, but have looked scintillating at home, obviously absolutely hammering Swansea and Coventry. The question I would have for you is if they can replicate any of that performance against Swansea in their previous game away from home. I know it's unlikely, but if they can, do you think they can get a result against Sunderland?
Yeah, I don't see why not.
Yeah, or do you think Sunderland are too strong for them regardless?
I think Sunderland are obviously a very strong side, but if Portsmouth were to put out that kind of performance, then I think there'd be a danger for any team in the division. It's just we've not seen it at all. It's incredible how big the difference is, and it's been a common theme of this season that we've mentioned a fair few times, how some teams, for some reason, are just really, really good at home, but absolutely shocking away, and it seems like Portsmouth are another team to add to that. But I see no reason why some of the talent they have can't replicate their performances away from home. I mean, Josh Murphy has been in scintillating form on many occasions at Fratton Park this season. As soon as he goes away from home, not the same player. I'm sure he's not the only one there. I've picked him out for no apparent reason. But yeah, it does seem very strange. But if Portsmouth are to turn things around away from home, then they should stay up very comfortably, really, shouldn't they? Got to give a mention, by the way, for some of Sunderland's injuries that they've got at the moment. Chris Rigg, Dennis Serkin, Dan Ballard, Romain Mundell, Alan Brown, Tommy Watson, amongst plenty of others as well. It's not the biggest squad compared to the other top two chasers, is it, Justin? So the fact they're keeping pace despite missing all those players is incredible. And I mean, despite that, they should still have enough to get past Pompey this weekend. But it's incredible how many injuries they've had, isn't it?
Well, yeah, it's quite, yeah, it is incredible. When you look at Leeds, who have managed to overcome their central midfield issue, you know, when Ethan Ampadu and Gruev both got injured at the same time, they were able to adapt. Burnley have been quite fortunate with injuries. Sheffield United have been hampered by injuries in recent weeks, and we're seeing that replicated in their form. Sunderland have managed to really maintain a consistency. I know they've had a bit of a slump at times, where they had that period where they draw all those games. But they've managed it very, very well. They've adapted to their circumstances incredibly well, actually, and probably better than some of the teams around them. So yeah, it's for them to keep up pace with the top three as it is. Yeah, is a brilliant achievement.
Well, if you made Sunderland's best 11 when everyone was fit, you'd say half the players are out injured at the moment. So the fact they're still ticking along nicely and getting wins like they did against Sheffield United is really, really good going. So there are mine and Justin's two bankers for the weekend, and every week we combine these two selections with a bet on the full-time result of our game of the weekend to create our own second tier featured multiple with SBK. But once again, we're adding Justin's outsider of Watford to win at home against Sheffield United, which we'll get onto very shortly. So this week we're going for Sunderland, Stoke and Watford all to win, plus Blackburn double chance. It was producer Finn's choice to add in Justin's outsider, and his decision to do that last time outcost us because my outsider came in while Justin's didn't, which means producer Finn is under pressure this week. Justin, the fans aren't happy and it could turn toxic.
Could turn toxic. Is it a sackable offence if he gets another one wrong? Because it is all down to him. Yeah, it's not for us to decide, but you know, I'm just saying.
The fans will have spoken if producer Finn lets us down again. That's all I'm saying, so no pressure. So yeah, Sunderland, Stoke and Watford all to win plus Blackburn double chance. A £10 bet on that multiple returns a whopping £115 thanks to SBK's 20% ACCA boost. So if you make 4 selections of your own, you'll get a 20% boost on your winnings. T's and C's apply, over 18s only, and please do gamble responsibly. Justin, let's go to your outsider for this weekend. We've just heard what it is. Watford to win at home against Sheffield United on Saturday afternoon. Why have you gone with that?
I think the key thing I want to bring up is Sheffield United's current slump. Their performances have been good, but I think they really are missing quality. Can I see that improving just a mere couple of days after their last defeat to Sunderland? Not necessarily. I think this will be another tough game for the Blades because they're coming up against a Watford team who are not only searching for a reaction to their last couple of home games. You know, they were quite flat against Portsmouth despite winning. Obviously, that was the game where Quadro Bar dropped the Fortnite emote against Portsmouth, inciting a near riot. But also the last home game, they were really poor against Cardiff. And then there was another frustrating defeat against QPR away at Loftus Road. So for me, they're looking for a reaction. They've had a bit of a poor patch of poor form, but they're coming up against the Sheffield United team who are really lacking quality. So if Sheffield United do create chances, I don't think, or I'm not convinced enough that they're going to take them. So I think that puts the game into Watford's hands. So for me, I'm going with a home win here. I think the way that the fixtures really lined up here, I think is really good timing for Tom Cleverley to go out and get a result and put that bad form behind him.
Yeah, well, I mean, their home form has been ridiculous this season, hasn't it? And with Sheffield United's ropey form and Watford's home record, it does seem like an appealing outsider pick. But I will admit, I avoided this one, Justin. And the reason I avoided it is because I find that I'm becoming increasingly more and more of a Watford skeptic. As mentioned relatively recently, their home record has been phenomenal, but I think they were overdue a loss. We can talk about my scepticism more with them on Sunday. But Sheffield United, Justin, we were saying yesterday how important a month this is for them with regards to bringing in players. They've been linked with Leicester City's Hamza Chowdhury. Would he be a good signing, do you think, for the Blades?
It'd be a good January signing. If it was a summer, if he was available in summer, I'd almost turn my nose up at him, mainly because I think he's quite polarising, I think is what I'm trying to say, is because he can be quite destructive. But also he does offer a very good energy, a very good ball winning capability in midfield if he's on it. Obviously, Chris Wilder was with him very briefly at Watford when Chowdhury was on loan at Watford a couple of seasons ago. So he's going to know what he can offer him, which is combativeness, its versatility. And as I say, I think in terms of a player being available in January, it's probably a good option, especially if they need to cover a light midfield already.
Yeah, well, injuries have really blighted Sheffield United recently, haven't they? You were just talking about that a second ago, Justin. Usually you would say a midfield with Vinicius Souza, Ollie Arblaster, Gustavo Hamer, Sidney Peck, Tom Davies, etc. That doesn't need any additions. But the first two being out means they need to get players in. And I like Hamza Chowdhury. I'm not sure about your scepticism just now. I think he's perhaps stayed at Leicester a bit too long because he's now 27. He's not getting a look in there. If he left a couple of years ago, he would be playing regularly for a top-end championship side for me. So, yeah, he'd be a good addition to the squad because as far as ball-winning midfielders go at this level, you can't get much better than him, in my opinion. Let's go to my outsider for this weekend. It's West Brom to win away at Swansea on Saturday lunchtime. Now, an interesting narrative to this game of the fact that Swansea manager Luke Williams has, of course, been linked with a vacant West Brom job. Now, the reports are that there hasn't been any approach and Williams has distanced himself from those links, but he's not ruled it out. So maybe this is an audition for the job. Who knows? But look, I like Swansea. I think they've got an outside chance of the playoffs this season, but they can be very hit or miss, summed up almost perfectly by back-to-back losses before Christmas, back-to-back wins after Christmas, and then a 4-0 thumping on New Year's Day at Portsmouth. It's something they definitely need to work on if they are going to be a serious contender for the top six. West Brom, though, doing pretty well under Chris Brunt as their caretaker manager. They turned over Preston 3-1 on New Year's Day, became only the second team since the start of September to avoid defeat at Bramall Lane. And I reckon they'll fancy their chances here. Josh Maja back amongst the goals. Mikey Johnston's finally getting going. Alex Mowat could be back for this game. So this is a good opportunity for the Albion. And I tell you what, Chris Brunt, he said he doesn't want the job, but it won't be a bad look for him to get one over a guy who's been strongly linked with said job, would it, Justin?
It'd be a good point to prove, wouldn't it? And I think these guys, these caretaker managers all say they don't want the job, but secretly, maybe they do want the job. The
reason he said he doesn't want it is because he says he's too inexperienced, which is fair, and it seems like he won't get the job because of what he said. But interesting going forwards, isn't it, Justin?
We're all inexperienced until we're experienced, right?
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Do you know? I do mean that because you look at Pep Guardiola, for example. He wasn't an experienced first team manager when he took over Barcelona. Do you know what I mean? So I think, I guess. I don't know why I brought up Pep Guardiola. It was just
I don't know how we've got to the stage where Chris Brunt, caretaker manager of West Brom, is now being compared to Pep Guardiola, but it's interesting how these things turn out, isn't it?
And if they keep playing the way they do, we're going to keep comparing them to Pep Guardiola's Barcelona because they do move the ball incredibly quickly and incredibly well. And I think that reaction to that first half against Derby on Boxing Day, where they were really flat, really poor. Second half they came out. That went into the Sheffield United game, and then that went into the Preston game. We're seeing real momentum build, which is probably a bad thing for Swansea because I think if you press this Swansea team high, we're starting to see a few cracks in how they play. They want to take risks. They want to play out from the back. We are seeing teams exploit that. I think this West Brom team is probably not an ideal one to come up against, especially because I think Chris Brunt's galvanised a bit more of a forward-thinking high press than Corberan deployed.
Yeah, they seem to certainly be making strides forward, don't they, under Bronte. So yeah, it's going to be a really fascinating game, this one. Certainly one to keep an eye on if you are a neutral. Right, we've done our predictions for the weekend. That means it's time for this.
All right. Settle down, you lot. It's time for the Craig Bryson pub quiz.
Oh, yes, it is, Mr. Barman. It's the Craig Bryson pub quiz, and this is how it works. I'm going to give Justin 6 clues about a Championship player, past or present, each more revealing than the last, and he simply has to guess who it is. They must have made over 200 Championship appearances in their career, and don't forget, the Dexter Blackstock rule is in play. Justin, as you'll be aware, neither of us have got one of these wrong yet this season. And I think it's getting a bit boring. So I've made this one a bit more difficult than usual. It definitely satisfies the Dexter Blackstock protocol before you start moaning about that. I think you should still get it, but I would say it's trickier than ones we've done so far this season.
Okay. It's exciting. I'm nervous because it's harder, but I'm also excited because there's a challenge.
Not the first time you've been nervous about things being harder. Right, let's get on to the first. It's a brief moment where I was like, should I do that joke? And I thought, go on then. It's Friday, people. I have made 214 Championship appearances, scoring 19 goals.
Central midfielder, I reckon. I will go with... Oh, I'm trying to think of just players to name now.
It's the first clue, mate. You don't need to put that much thought
Stephen
into
McPhail.
It's not Stephen McPhail, but always good to hear him mentioned. Question number 2, or clue number 2, rather. I'm currently in the MLS with San Diego FC.
That's a risk. I could know the MLS really well.
Yeah, you do work for Americans, don't you?
I do work for Americans. This
Do
is
you watch San Diego FC very often?
I'm a season ticket holder.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I make the flight weekly. I'll go with Ashley Westwood.
It's not Ashley Westwood, but good to hear him mentioned. He plays in the MLS. I can't remember who he plays for.
Yeah, it might be Minnesota he plays for.
Yeah. Anyway. Clue number 3. As well as 214 Championship appearances, I have also made 33 appearances in the Premier League, most of whom were for Manchester United.
They were for Manchester United. Ooh la la.
Ooh la la.
And I plays for San Diego. Most were for Manchester United, which implies there was some for another team, which may have been a loan spell. Which is relevant to my thinking here.
It doesn't help you very much, that, does it?
No, it doesn't at all. I will throw out a name here, whom I'm trying to think of.
The amount of time buying you do in the Craig Bryson pub quiz is absolutely astonishing.
Yeah, it's gamesmanship at its very highest. I don't know, Tyler Blackett. He's not scored 19 goals.
Tyler Blackett, what a name. Good to hear him mentioned, but it is not Tyler Blackett. Justin, you're on clue number 4, and it's this. I came through the Manchester United Academy, where I was frequently compared to Michael Carrick.
You fill the dead owl, I think.
I don't want to. So if you want to, just give me a guess, Justin.
See, United don't particularly produce amazing youngsters. They're always very hyped up.
Well, I mean,
they're always very overhyped. I think.
They did at one stage, but I get what you mean.
Yeah,
Haven't been many have come through in recent years. Okay.
Yeah, Chris Eagles has been the peak since 2000, so it's not Chris Eagles. I can't think of anyone. Crikey! Next clue, please.
Dear. Oh dear! We're on to the 5th clue, ladies and gents, and he doesn't seem like he has an idea at all. This is your 5th clue, Justin. At Championship level, I've played for 3 clubs: West Brom, Sunderland, and Middlesbrough.
Got it. Paddy McNair.
I thought sending you down the route of thinking midfielder might throw you off the scent, because traditionally defender, isn't he? But I thought if I really ram it into your head that this guy is a midfielder, and also I threw West Brom in there, even though he's barely played for West Brom. He's actually gone back to the MLS now because he was on loan at West Brom once. That's been cancelled now. I thought that may do you over. So that's annoying. I should have left out Sunderland, really, shouldn't I? Or Middlesbrough, one of the two.
Yeah, it was, I think the United one and then him leaving for the MLS, I think was a trigger. Him leaving for the MLS is quite a big one. Yeah, I knew he'd made the move because his loan wasn't cancelled. West Brom would just sign him on loan until January.
Yeah.
It was a really random transfer. But yeah, that was the Carrick thing really threw me off. Because at no point, that was a good clue, because at no point would I think Paddy McNair is any relation, or not relation, but could be compared to Michael Carrick, because they're completely different players.
No, come on now. When he was a midfielder, I could definitely see the comparison when he was a lot younger anyway. And the final clue, Justin, was going to be I have 73 caps for Northern Ireland, which I feel like probably would have given it away by that stage, wouldn't it?
Yeah, he's a prolific on the international stage for old Northern Ireland.
I like the accent there. More of that, please, Justin Peach, going forwards. More of that. I'm sure many will find it offensive, but that's fine. Anyway, ladies and gents, that's been the Craig Bryson Pub Quiz. Paddy McNair, the answer to this week's edition.